Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Triangle BNI. My name is Mike Manning, and each week we bring you success stories of BNI members from the Triangle. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle. And if you're not from around here, it is Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill in the central part of North Carolina. We bring you a guest each week, and our guest today to tell you about what he has done in BNI is Bryan King with Remtech Environmental. Bryan, good to have you here today.
Mike, it's good to be here.
All right, so we're going to tell you, it is. It's a very nice day today, a very hot day today.
Hot day, man.
Good day for you to be in the attic, clearing out asbestos and everything.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so we're going to do as all BNI meetings do when the speaker's introduced. We read the member bio sheet. So I'm going to ask you some questions. You can tell everybody about who you are. All right?
We'll do it.
So business name is Remtech Environmental.
That is.
The profession is, how would you explain Remtech Environmental?
Now, what we do is we restore homes and buildings to safe conditions. They've probably had indoor contaminants like mold from wet buildings, had asbestos from older buildings. We do water damage, sewage cleanup, anything that makes your face grimace when I say the word. That's the kind of stuff we remove.
Very
Absolutely.
Good. Location of the business.
Well, we're located right here in Raleigh. We have an office in Asheville and one at Morehead City. So we cover a pretty good size area, but everything starts and finishes right here in Raleigh.
See, very clever to have that Morehead City office right off.
Absolutely.
Fridays when you have to go visit, check on everything.
Absolutely.
See,
That's
you're
it.
smart.
I'm
You're
smart
smart.
guy.
Years in the business.
Wow, that's a great, yeah. So we started the business in 2000. I'm sorry, I was saying when I graduated, 2000. Yeah. So we've been around for about 18 years now.
Okay. Previous types of jobs.
Well, I came from the environmental field. I worked in another environmental company for 10 years. And then before that, I worked at Nortel. So I did, of course, that company's
that's going back, yes.
I was an engineer there. And that's my background is engineering. And what else have I done? I've done a lot of painting going through college. I painted a lot. Worked at UPS loading trucks. So anything manual labor, that was me.
All right. Family information now is the section here. Your spouse?
My spouse, Ann. We've been married since there we go. That was the 1990. That's what I needed to remember. I got to check that off.
Yeah, don't forget that day.
Right. Yeah,
boy.
We'll mess that up. So we've been married 28 years. My wife, Ann. We have 3 kids. I have a son who's at NC State, mechanical engineer there. Another son who's getting ready to start at Wake Tech. He wants to major in finance. And then I've got a daughter who's finishing up high school right now. And we're just glad to be a part of her world.
There you go. Yeah, really. Animals.
Oh gosh, well, we don't have any, but our kids have a lot. So we got a couple of cats right now. So
okay.
Yeah. And what an interesting story is my daughter Taylor, she trains guide dogs
nice.
For the blind.
Okay.
So every now and then, so we just had one for a week. So when people go on vacation, she helps train them, continue the training and stuff like that.
And Taylor's the one you brought to your chapter.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. I remember.
Yeah, so you'll remember her.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, Bryan's chapter is RD39. BNI Business Connections meets every Friday morning at 8 a.m. at the Wake Forest Coffee Company. So if you're ever in the Wake Forest area and want to meet some good people and drink some good coffee, you can visit his chapter then.
Absolutely.
Hobbies and activities of interest.
Wow. Well, we're outdoor people, so we like to do hunting, fishing, a lot of skiing, snow skiing, water skiing. If it's outside, I'm a pilot, so I love to fly. Yes. I volunteer for the Civil Air Patrol, so we get time to do a lot of flying too.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. Any of the kids want to get their license?
I think they all would. We owned an airplane for a few years, and so all of them flew some, where we'd get up and we would take a trip to Asheville or to the beach or something, and they all had a chance to fly. So they all love it.
Very nice.
Right now, everybody's like, getting through school.
Your burning desire is to...
Right now in business, we are striving to get our business, all the systems in place so that we can, obviously serve our customers as best, but just continue to add more parts that one day I'm going to retire.
Okay, very nice.
One day, so that's what we're really working on is business systems.
Very good. The key to your success.
Wow. Just being stubborn, to work hard, you just never get up. You just what's the word I'm looking for? Bullheaded. Is that the right word? You just going to go and just do it. And, really, we can solve problems. Sometimes people throw crazy stuff at us like, we're just going to get this just determination. Yeah, we can fix this. We'll make it happen.
And my favorite question out of this whole thing is something no one knows about you.
Now this is pretty funny. When I was in high school, even at 15, I owned a store, these are like little malls that we had where I grew up in the mountains. And so we had these malls and they would have just small stores in it. So I had a store that sold both socks and martial arts equipment. So good combination. So when I was in high school, so if the teacher would leave the room and throwing stars would hit the blackboard, I was the guy they all called. It's like, let's get Bryan to the office. He sold too many throwing stars. So that was me.
How long did you own both of those?
You know, until I finished high school. So probably about 2 years. 2 years. They were very they were fun, they were profitable, did a lot of fun stuff, took some nice trips, employed a couple of guys I was in high school with. So it's fun times. Fun times.
Did that stir that entrepreneur spirit for you?
Yeah, I think so. Really did. Definitely.
Very nice. Yeah. All right. Walking around, richest guy in campus, walking through
That's
the hallway.
Yeah.
Did you pay cash for your first car then, since you had a business?
You know, I did, but me and my dad split it. It was an old 67 Ford pickup, had a camper shell on the back of it. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of fun.
Very good. All right. So early August 2018, give us a State of the Union of Remtech Environmental.
Wow. It's been a great year. Remtech last year, so for the 2017 year, we had phenomenal growth. And it's continued to grow. So this year, 2018, we're tracking just slightly ahead of last year. We're seeing a lot of growth. And I would say probably one of the great keys right now is you hear this saying of having the right people on the bus. I think this is the best group of people we've ever had on the bus. So things are going really well.
Oh, good.
Going very well.
Do I remember the story about how the name Remtech came about? Ooh, I believe your wife was involved.
Yeah,
right?
my wife was involved. So we got called out to do a project in Houston, Texas, believe it or not. I just started the company, just getting off the ground. And so we're down there and we're doing a big mold remediation job in Houston, Texas. And I called home and was talking to my wife. And at the time we were operating under the name King Coat because we did a lot of painting stuff. So here we are, but my expertise was in environmental stuff. So we were doing a big mold job down there. My wife was like, we got to come up with a better name than that. I'm like, what are you thinking about? She goes, well, you do remediation, right? I said, yeah, remediation. She goes, well, there's some technology involved, right? I said, yeah. She goes, Remtech. I said, all right, let's run with it.
Beautiful.
So here we are 18 years
Great
later
story.
in Remtech Environmental.
Great story. So what was your first experience with BNI? Who'd you meet that told you about it?
Wow. Okay. That's a funny story. I had hired a couple of guys, different salespeople through the time, and they each were big believers in BNI. But for some reason, whatever the reason is, we never really got a whole lot out of it at the time. So one of them I had to let go. And so I had some remaining time on that membership. So I called this guy named Steve, which a lot of y'all know if you're listening, you know Steve Hand. And I said, Steve, I want to check this out a little bit more. So can I take this remaining few months and go visit some chapters? So I went out, visited a lot of chapters. And all of a sudden I started hearing, because I'd never been, just had employees go. And I started realizing it was about givers gain. And I think I probably had a lot of people that were looking for, what can I get out of it? Send me some work. And so I tried a lot of different chapters and I found one that I felt at home with. And so one guy that was real instrumental is a guy named Tony Smith. He owns a great company called Steam Pro. And I was talking to Tony and he kind of put his arm around me and just said, hey, let me show you what we can do. Let me make you feel at home. And so each week I started going with Tony and Tony would tell me, hey, this is what you're going to say next. This is what's going to happen. And also I just felt really at home. And I realized there were some good trades guys in there that were easy fits for me. And then boom, it took off. And then here we are many years later and still trucking.
And for those of you, each week we talk about Steve, and Steve Hand, the executive director of Triangle BNI, is very instrumental for a lot of people getting in the business. You can reach them at 919-465-1667, or you can email them at trianglebni@yahoo.com. Ask him a question. Even if you're not from the area, you've got a question about BNI where you live, he'll be more than happy to tell you about that. He knows a lot of the people around the country that run the BNI chapters in different cities and different states, so they can help you a lot on that. And I know Steve a lot of people that have been on the show so far go back, talk about their connection with Steve as well.
Absolutely.
And back to Tony and Julie at Steam Pro. I mean, quality people. Yeah. And I've referred them as well. Good stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So was that the original RD39?
Yes, it was. Okay. That's right. It. RD39. So they were members of some different chapters, but when I found RD39, I was like, this is home. This is a good group of guys. So
when you first walked in, I always like to ask people, when you walked in your first meeting and then walked out of your first meeting, which one really was more, which one stuck with you the most?
Whether I can that's a great question because, I'm gonna say probably leaving because I was so encouraged.
Yes.
When you go in there, you're maybe a little bit nervous. You're trying to figure out, who is everybody, what's going on, what's this all about, and as you go, as you kind of get through the meeting, you leave really encouraged. Like these are good people.
Oh, all fired up.
They
Yeah.
want to help
Mhm.
out, and all of a sudden you see a lot of really for me, I saw a lot of solutions to some problems I had. So I was
Yeah.
like, this is great.
And I think a lot of us have gone to leads groups, and nothing wrong with that, but they're not seat exclusive where BNI is. So you're the only environmental services person in
That's right.
there. And so that's nice
Yeah,
when you walk in. And we tell people all the time, if you're not a member of BNI, you've just inherited anywhere from 12 to 30 new salespeople
that's right.
for your company. So that's another reason why people ought to look into joining BNI.
That's it. Exactly.
So how
Exactly.
long did it take you to put in? Well, you said you had some time remaining, so no brainer for you to keep going.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. It was a no-brainer to keep going. I started learning how it works, how I could get referrals, how I could give referrals and make this thing start working. So yeah.
And how long ago was this?
Man, I knew that was gonna be a question we were gonna talk about today. And man, I'm thinking it's got to be at least 6 years, maybe
Okay.
7. It's been a
Yeah.
while. It's been a while.
So what was your
good time.
first referral you gave or got? Do you remember? Or one of the first ones?
Man, probably what for me giving referrals, I think the easy way to start is find a good connection, an easy, natural referral for your business. So it's probably a trades referral, something like a plumber or electrician was
Yeah.
probably our first referral. But I remember as far as getting referral, I remember a key point for us in what we work with is the real estate seat.
Yes.
And so I remember getting a great referral from the realtor. And for
Derek.
us, Derek, that's it. Yep. Derek
How is
Basin, man.
Derek?
He's great.
Okay.
He's not part of our group, but he
Yeah.
still sends us referrals. I talk to him
It's the beauty
probably,
of BNI right there.
yeah,
You
that's
make
exactly right.
relationships. Yeah.
Once a month, I bet
Yep.
we still talk with him. But he had average size job for us. When we go through a year, an average size job for us is about $5,000. And I remember he sent us this referral and it was about 13 grand. I mean, so it was like, this is, more than twice the size of a normal job we would get. And man, we were stoked. We were like, it was like, we had hit the jackpot. And it was a great referral, great, he laid the groundwork for us. So we walked in for these customers and they were excited to see us come in. We removed, it was an asbestos job.
Mhm.
So we removed a lot of asbestos for them. And it was just a great job. So I definitely remember that.
And you
Definitely.
talked about early on, you were painting mostly, and then you kind of evolved from
Yeah,
King Coat to Remtech Environmental.
that's right.
So what did you add along the way that was just a natural fit for the company?
After environmental stuff, I guess what you're looking at. So probably the biggest growth for us was asbestos.
Yeah.
So we really got started good with BNI, we were doing almost probably 90% was mold work. And we still did a little bit of asbestos because I came from an asbestos field originally. So we were doing a little bit. And a big key for us that I learned through BNI that Steve Hand taught us was how to think strategically.
Mm.
And through that, man, we started growing our asbestos business like crazy. And now it's our largest source of revenue is asbestos.
Oh, wow.
So, and then we just continued to add, more, anything in the environmental fit, anything that was a natural fit. If you got to wear a respirator to protect yourself, we're
Yeah.
probably in that line of business.
Now, once you started going into these houses, whether it's mold or asbestos or whatever, what kind of questions did you get from the owner, the realtor, or on the commercial side that they said, "Oh yeah, can you take a look at this?" Or what do you find when you go into a place like that?
You know, I, most time people are so heavily hit with this environmental concern.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Whether it's mold or asbestos, usually it all kind of focuses there. Now, then what typically happens is there's always a rebuild part to it because we end up usually tearing out a lot of stuff to get rid of the mold or asbestos. And so they would come back and ask us about who can rebuild this.
Yeah.
And that becomes the natural referral within the BNI group.
Yes.
So that's a nice piece to us. And we get in there and they say, well, who can wash my house? Who can clean
Mhm.
my carpets? Who can change my HVAC system? I've got to upgrade my electrical or something like that. And I've got a list of guys I can refer. So that adds value to what I do for my customer.
And thinking strategically, did you give much thought to adding those services in-house, or you just want to stay with what you knew?
Yeah, just stay with what we know. Stay with what we know. We found a bigger benefit by the referrals we get back rather than starting, let's say, a plumbing division. That's
Yeah.
what would be a natural fit for us. Add plumbing to it. we get too much value by what a plumber can refer back to us. So we stick with what we know well, and share the business.
And I know Don loves having you in the group.
Oh,
'cause he's
absolutely.
always,
Don Cootware. He
yeah.
is with All American Heating and Air. He is, in fact, he might be the best beneficiary of what
Yeah.
we do. We
Oh,
send
yeah.
a lot of work to him, but man, he's got his guys in the field trained well to send us referrals. So
Because you two go
it's
hand
good.
in hand.
Oh,
Once you get
absolutely.
into a house, and usually are they related a lot of times?
Yeah, especially on the mold side.
Yeah.
Especially on the mold side. Usually there's a system, an HVAC system that's oversized, so it's not taking all the moisture out of the air, or they got one that's just outdated. So we turn a lot of good referrals like that to him.
So an average job, okay, just standard
Okay.
average job, $5,000,
Yep.
whatever you need to do to the house. How many people are involved in that? What kind of size crew do you take? How long does it take to do?
No, we do both residential and commercial.
Mhm.
So most of our residential jobs we'll run with a crew of like 2 or 3. There's just not room to have a lot of guys in there, right? So that would be a normal size crew. Then when we get to commercial applications, we might have anywhere between 5 and 15. So we can
Oh,
get
wow.
a lot of guys in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're running. Occasionally, we do have a homeowner every now and then will say like, "Hey, I want you to get this done in 3 days," and we're like, "Okay, we're gonna put an army in there and make this thing happen." So
What's the average length of a residential job?
the average one's probably like 2 days.
Okay.
2 to 3 days, unless we're doing an entire house. Let's say
Yeah.
like an asbestos popcorn ceiling.
Yes.
Yeah, that might take a week or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that why you like older houses so much?
Yeah, I love those older houses, man. They can have all kinds of goodie in
Quit
it.
building. We
Yeah.
keep reselling those old houses.
That's right. That's right.
I know in your chapter right now, you are the educational coordinator.
That's it.
And I've said this to you. I've said it to Steve Han, and I'll say it now. You are as good at this as anybody is. And I'll tell you why, because you give thought to it on what you're going to talk about each week. And in a typical BNI meeting, there's not just, you have a president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, you have visitor host, you have membership committee, and you have your educational coordinator. And each week they're tasked with coming up with a thought or an idea that is either BNI related or just general business applications being related to that. So how do you come up with your ideas? I know 2 weeks ago when I visited your chapter, you would come across something that come up during the week you were involved with, and that turned into that educational moment. But what kind of things are you thinking about that will help your chapter?
There's 2 things I focus on. Is one, I always think about what's the need of the chapter. If you get in there and you see that maybe we need to increase our one-to-ones, or we need to increase, or if we see a lot of one-to-ones and the referrals aren't where they should be, maybe we need to think about follow-up. How do we do that? So I might think of something the chapter needs, and then I'll dig into some of the BNI resources. There's a ton of BNI sources out there that you can either watch, read, listen to, and I'll come in with that. And then the other thing is just, if I need it, probably somebody else needs it. So I'm, like a lot of business guys, we wear a lot of hats during the week, and part of it, I've got to stay educated as a business owner. So I'm listening to a lot of podcasts when I'm driving down the road. It's kind of like a university on wheels.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm listening to stuff. I'm hearing things, and if I hear something that's like impactful for me, I say, there's probably some guys in the group that need to hear this too. And so, we put together an abbreviated 2 or 3 minute talk, and we run with it. I got nothing original. I got nothing original in my entire life. I've repeated, stolen. I've done something to everything.
Procurement officer.
That's it.
On your business card, if you'll put that on there. Yeah.
That's a good one.
So what are a couple ideas and thoughts that you've shared with your chapter that still stick with you on best business practices or dealing with people?
I'm gonna say for BNI, probably the 2 that we come back to a lot, because people forget it, or if they're new, it takes them a lot of times to hear it, is one, be specific.
Yes.
One of the toughest things we hear when we go to a BNI group is someone says, "I'm a full service something." And you're like, and to a lay person who doesn't understand the industry, I'm like, that tells me nothing. Or I'll pick on since we already mentioned a realtor. If a realtor comes in and says, "I'm looking for anybody who wants to buy or sell a house," I'm like, I got nothing. And so for us, kind of here in the Triangle, we all see. If someone asked me something that broad, I see Carter Finley Stadium full of 60,000 people, and I don't know any of them. But if someone says, "Bryan, who's in section 9, row L, seat 15?" I'm like, "Oh, that's Mike. I know Mike. We our kids played North Wake baseball together or something. I can find that." So I think one of the things we always come back to is be specific of who you're looking for. I even had Taylor sub for me this week, and she was like, who are we looking for this week? And I said, well, let's drill down. Who is that person? So we came up with 2 people that we really think would be great contacts for us, where we could help them and they could help us. So we got to help people find that specific person. Be
Yeah.
very, very intentional. And so it can be specific to a person, or it can be specific to something you're trying to grow in your business. And so this is where Steve Hand totally changed our asbestos business a couple of years ago. He came up with this idea that helped us focus in, instead of just thinking, man, we need to look for people who've got asbestos in their house. He drilled down to a neighborhood and a specific product. And we drilled down to that. And all of a sudden, in a
Wow.
period of about 3 years, we saw our asbestos business go from about 100 grand to about 800 grand just by that one idea.
Wow.
So, Steve, thank you, Steve. Thank you.
He will
Yeah.
be listening. Yes.
Yeah.
So were you able to duplicate that in Asheville, Morehead City?
We
the other
have
offices?
somewhat, and we've done it. I tell you where we've done it too. That's helped out is when I meet with people in my industry, and we realize that we could work together on stuff, and we talk about how can I help you, what can I do. I've asked some of these guys, and I'll say, look, here's either 5 specific people I need, or 5 types of people. And I had this one guy here in Raleigh, guy we work in the environmental field together. Um, and he came up with 5 names for me. And he said, Bryan, I'm willing to go to lunch with these guys with you to make the introduction. And so on one of these guys, we went to lunch with, we had a great lunch. We went back to this guy's office, and immediately he rolled out the plans for a project. And just immediately right there, we signed. That was probably a $30,000 to $35,000 job, just like that. So I've been able to take that one idea of how to be specific,
Mhm.
and I've taken it in other areas of my business, and it works. Great BNI concept.
So within the industry here in the Triangle and actually across the state, since you are, how often are you calling each other to say either I'm too busy to do that or that's not part of what we do? Or do they call you to do things like
You
that?
talking about like customers calling
No,
or
your
people
competitors.
competitors?
Yeah.
We do have some friendly competitors,
Mhm.
and I wish more of them would think that way. We've
It's
got.
hard sometimes. Yeah.
It is, and we've got there's 2 or 3 really good ones here in Raleigh, and they call us to handle all their asbestos work. Now these companies would also do mold. Sometimes if they're too busy,
Mhm.
they call us to do the mold work, and we do the same thing. If we're too busy in something that they have an expertise in, we gladly send it to them. Gladly send
Yeah.
it to them. So, and that's good. It helps our clients out. They're getting a good reputable company helping them out. And of course, in this market too, labor's the limiting factor for everybody right now. So it's tough. So we're always looking for good technicians, um, training people. It's crazy market. So if we can get good referral
Yeah.
partners like that, man, that's very valuable.
So in your BNI chapter, did you probably a natural referral partner probably just showed up for you as you got to know people, right?
Yeah. I think for people who are looking at BNI to start with, if you can find a chapter that's got some of those natural
Yeah.
referral partners, lock in there. And then what I like to do is get selfish. I think about who are those other referral partners I would love to have in this BNI group,
Mhm.
and that's who I want to concentrate on trying to invite.
Yeah.
So that a year later I look and say, man, I've added 3 really good referral partners within my BNI group. Selfishly, it helps me,
Oh, yeah.
but for the group, it helps everybody else in the group.
Yeah.
So, but I think if you can find a couple of natural referral partners, man, that's a.
Who are the ones in your chapters that showed up immediately?
Oh, for
Yeah.
us, it would be, the realtor, the plumber, the electrician, the HVAC, the carpet cleaner. Those are natural, easy referrals for us.
Yeah, and your chapter's like mine, meets early in the morning, so you guys are done by about 9:15. I'm done at 9,
Oh, yeah,
so for trades, it's great. Just get in
absolutely.
your truck and go instead of
Absolutely.
sometimes difficult for a noon meeting to tell the client, "I'll be back in 2 hours."
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of BNI, probably the average BNI person is either a one-person company up to
Mhm.
maybe 15 or 20. I mean, that's kind of a broad range, but that's kind of the average. So, a lot of the guys wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
And so, for us, a morning one was great.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can pop in, boom, and the rest of my day, I can still roll.
Do you get a chance to visit other chapters very
I
often?
do. I do. And I like that. And it kind of comes in waves. And we're in our busy season. I may not visit as much as I want to. man, if you can visit, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. Just to get your name out there, and especially if that chapter doesn't have your trade or your business to business thing,
Yeah.
it's like a freebie.
Have you had, do you remember some of the referrals you've gotten from visiting other chapters? Has it been
Oh yeah,
pretty steady?
yeah, absolutely. Man, I'm drawing now. I'm gonna fall on my face here for this guy, but in the Durham chapter, what's the big Durham chapter?
Bull City.
Bull
Yeah.
City.
They were on
There's
here earlier. I tell them they're like Real
ah,
Madrid and the Yankees. They're the 700-pound gorilla in
handyman
the room.
guy,
Yeah.
big guy,
Okay.
huge guy. I can't think of what his name is right
Yeah.
now. He gave us a great referral for an asbestos job in Durham. Cannot believe it. He's gonna shoot me now. He's gonna
That's
come
okay.
pound on me.
Yeah, that's okay. You'll think of it at 12:10 on your drive home. Yeah.
man.
But that's the beauty of BNI, though, is because it's seat specific, nobody else is going to compete with you in your chapter, but it also allows you to visit other chapters. There's almost 40 in the triangle. But when you walk in the door, you have instant credibility when you say, I'm a fellow BNI member, because then they know
Absolutely.
you've been vetted by somebody and they feel like they can trust you. They
That's
talk
right.
with you for a
That's
few
right.
minutes, get a feel for what you do, and that they
Yeah.
can trust you.
That's it. You got it. You got it.
So, what are some of the things that you've seen be successful in your chapter? Because again, we're always trying to get people to join BNI. Little contests you guys have done to grow one-to-ones or referrals or anything like that.
I don't know. I think that our BNI group, the main thing is just a real family feel.
Mm.
And a lot of it may have just because we meet early in the morning, and a lot of us show up 30 minutes early. Now, that sounds crazy, but some of us show up early.
Don's always there at 7.
Absolutely. And we drink a coffee, and man, we
Yeah.
talk about kids, we talk about school, we talk about jobs, we talk about a lot of different things. And so there's a real family nature to
Mm.
it. So, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if we've done any really contests that sparked anything. It's just a good at home feel.
I like to tell people that another reason to join BNI, not only will you grow your business if you activate it like anything else, but the quality of people that are in BNI, not only are they conscientious business owners to give referrals and give testimonials about you if you've done work for them, but also they're very involved in the community. So you're getting well-rounded people in BNI. And I know your chapter just finished a community project.
Yeah, that's a great one. Rob Zellum, he's with Keller Williams. He's our realtor in our group. And Rob, he and a couple other guys there hosted where they would come in and build a playground for a child who has cancer. And so they went in and did this. And this was like about 2 Saturdays ago. And I was actually on vacation. Don't tell anybody I was on vacation. But they came in. So our whole group came in. Our chapter brought their kids, everybody, and they worked and built this phenomenal playground. So when this family came back, man, boom, their daughter's got a playground. So that was good. That builds a lot of unity. A lot of unity in the group.
Do you guys like to get together outside of the chapter meetings on Friday?
We try to if we can.
Yeah.
We try to, and you'll hear a lot of guys hanging out. Go to the lake or something, or there's a little restaurant down the road there at in downtown Wake Forest that guys will go meet at and stuff. So we do a little bit of that.
Okay. So now that you know the value of BNI, are you likely to add some of your employees into other chapters?
That's a great question. Yeah, we've been considering that. We've been considering getting. We've got 2 people that we're looking at putting in other chapters. So we're definitely looking at that idea. Yeah, I think it would. It would increase our sphere, obviously, and our business doesn't. We're not in all the chapters, so
No.
it's a good one to be at.
It is. My guess is I think there's probably about a dozen
Yeah,
in the disaster recovery seat, however you
right,
want to qualify that.
right,
So
right.
yeah, there's plenty of other chapters you can go visit.
Yeah,
I noticed I was on your website the other day, and I like how you've conveniently written this. And if you, it's remtechenvironmental.com, right?
right. That's
Okay,
it.
people can go there.
That's right.
Under service areas, the pull down, and it says obviously the triangle,
That's
and
right.
obviously Asheville. You guys go from the mountains to the coast.
That's right.
It has Nebraska that you've
We
done
have.
jobs in,
We have.
and Texas,
We have.
and
Yeah.
the Cayman Islands.
Oh
Do
man.
tell.
Yeah, yeah. We had obviously in this type of work, we
Mhm.
end up getting a lot of hurricane
Yeah.
related work. So sometimes when hurricanes move through different areas, we get called to do those projects. So we did when Cayman got wrecked by Hurricane Ivan, we ended up going down there doing a lot of not only drying but a lot of mold removal. So we spent we spent a lot of time. We probably spent 8 months in Cayman, so that was a lot of fun. We spent about a year in the Bahamas, about a year in Houston, Texas, and the Nebraska job was a mold job, and it was from a client we had in the Georgia area. And so we went out there. We spent about 3 months. The snow came. We left. The snow melted.
Good
We went
decision.
back in the spring and finished it up in a couple of months. So yeah.
So with these hurricane jobs, how many people do you take with you? Do you hire when you get down? How do you staff that?
Yeah, the way we've done it is we'll take as big a crew as we can down there. So maybe it's 15 we start with. And then after a week or two, once we've got a good system, then we start backing out our what I call our home base crew and hire locals. Because most time when a hurricane is hit, you got a lot of unemployed people. So then we start hiring locals, get them trained up where they can safely work on different things that we can do. So then you get a good mix. We've got maybe a core group of 3 to 5 that are employees that have been with us for 5, 10 years. And then we've got a lot of locals that we can employ until they're fully restored.
And are those calls coming from insurance companies?
Yeah, those are calling from insurance companies or adjusters that know that we've handled large losses in the
Okay.
past. Yeah.
Right.
Of course, after we finished some work in the Cayman, we had to go back every year for a
Yeah.
few years just to maintain the relationships and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Very believable, folks. Very believable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So now you'll do South Carolina,
Oh, sure.
Georgia.
Absolutely. Anything, we'll go. Obviously, the size of the job drives that. We can't do a $600 job in Nebraska. But as you get up to several $1,000s, you can cover the mobilization fees into Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia. Yeah.
Have you gotten referrals from other BNIs outside of North Carolina that had jobs or
No, I
anything
don't
like
think
that? Or
so.
these are all pretty much coming from
Yeah.
insurance or adjusters, stuff like that.
That's right. Yeah. The
Okay.
larger ones. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you started out, was it all residential work?
No, actually, when we started, it was a good mix of both residential and commercial. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's something we definitely look for. When we go to our BNI groups, we're asking for both.
Yeah.
We're very intentional. We want to grow both of those. I mean, I was joking with my guys. We were looking at a really large commercial job last week, and I had one of my supervisors out there with me, and we were talking about it. And I told him, and he was kind of asking me, because he sees that we do such a wide variety of jobs and size, and he looked at me, he's like, why the wide range? I said, man, well, the big ones. The great thing about the big ones is I'll spend about the same amount of time getting that job as I do the little job. So I just assume have a bunch of big ones in there too.
Yeah.
So it's a good mix. It makes for a good business model.
So what's the percentage of residential versus commercial on the books for you guys today?
So if you look at just raw numbers, like the number of jobs, it's probably 85 to 90% residential. But when you look at the dollar figure of it, it's probably 50 to 60% residential, 40 to 50% commercial, just because commercial jobs will have such a bigger price tag with them.
And on the commercial jobs, if there is mold or asbestos issues, do you find those in the whole building?
It's a mix of both. Like we just looked at a big project. They're gonna have to tear down the building, and there's asbestos throughout. I mean, from roof to crawl space, the floors, the ceilings, the pipe insulation, the caulk in the windows, the glazing, everything had asbestos in it. So it was throughout. But then we'll look at another one. The only thing they'll have 2 rooms that have old, what we used to call linoleum. We were growing up, sheet vinyl now, I think's the technical word, but old linoleum, and we're going to just move just 2 rooms or something. So it's a mixed bag.
I think they changed the words on that just to raise the price.
That's right. I like that. Yeah.
Back in the day.
That works.
Linoleum, shed carpet, the wood hallway.
Yeah, that's right. We used to have popcorn ceiling. Now texture
everywhere.
Texture.
Texture, very nice.
Texture. Yeah, but we
just
still
went
got
up
popcorn.
10 cents a square foot, didn't it?
That's right. Oh yeah.
So in the building you got that's being torn down, do you go in and are you there first before they tear it down?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Law requires all asbestos to get out of there before it can be torn down. So we remove all the asbestos, and then as soon as we're done, the track hose and the bulldozers come in and knock it over.
And when you capture all the asbestos, what do you do with it?
Oh yeah. Okay. So asbestos is very regulated, very regulated. I mean, to the nth degree. So all the waste has to be containerized properly. It has to be labeled properly, and then it has to go to a proper landfill. So, and then there's manifests that follow it the whole trip. So It don't go to your backyard.
No.
It doesn't go to your backyard. So
Can't put it in the dumpster either.
no, no.
So let's talk about people. Obviously, key to any company. People can get up and talk about all they want to, but if you've got the wrong people, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
So how and where do you find your best people?
Our best people have come from people that already work for us who they know. I mean, that's just, I wish I could. I mean, we advertise like everybody else. We're on all the big job sites out there. We're looking for people. But I can tell you to this day, my best people have come from people already working for me. And they say, hey, I've got a friend, and I can vouch for him. He's worked really hard and he'd like to come work for us. Or I got a cousin.
Yeah.
He's moving down from New York. He'd love to have a job here. And those have been my best guys, So we've hired a lot of people, but if there's some kind of connection, that's what we've seen, man. If there's somebody can vouch for them and they kind of know what they're getting into, man, they work well. They last a long time.
What kind of background are you looking for, or skill set from somebody?
Most of our stuff, because it's regulated, if we can get a guy who's already accredited, that would be the official word with the state. They would have to be accredited. That would be ideal what we're looking for. Now, if they're not already accredited, if they don't have the certifications already, we're looking for somebody who can work hard. They're not scared to get dirty, work long hours, got a good work ethic. So that's the guys in the field. So that's what we're looking for. If it gets into something more that's like project management, customer relationship, then we're looking for somebody who can, has good people skills, obviously, but they got to have our mindset. How do we think about the customer? How do we think about our employees? How do we think about the future? And that's a little more, you're not going to get that on a resume. You're going to get that from an interview, a lot of interviews, asking questions, what's important in their life? What are their goals? What's real important to them? So kind of where we're looking for people.
And they need to know that it's not a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
You can get a Saturday 7:30 p.m. call, can't you?
Yeah, you can. You can. You're going to have the early morning calls, the late afternoon, the weekend. Yeah.
Because a water heater in the attic, it's not going to break at 9:30 on a
We
Tuesday
like, by the
morning.
way, we like water heaters in attics. Water heater, talking to any plumbers out there, keep them in the attic. So, makes a lot of damage.
It's just things like that. Go, okay, why is it up there?
Yeah, I know. It's like, keep guys like me in business, man.
Now, you and I, a couple of weeks ago, and if you'll share the story, it'll be a good one. We're talking about employees, and I'd asked you how things are going, and you told a story about a guy working for you that had been offered a job somewhere else. And you kind of rallied the troops and kind of rethought how you were kind of doing things. And it was kind of a good moment for you.
Yeah,
the way it turned out.
Yeah. It was huge. Yeah, it's a tough job. And sometimes we get busy and we get in a hectic part of our season. We're going 90 miles an hour. And then all of a sudden I don't know if the right word is fortunate or blessed to have one of my employees come to me and just like, man, we're looking somewhere else. And all of a sudden you have this conversation with them. You find out, man, we haven't been conveying how important they are to us. Now we know that. I had this conversation with my wife. I tell them, say, this is what's going on at work. And my wife's like, it hurt her. Some of these guys have been with me like, 10, 12, 15 years. And so we just had to get back together. And so all of a sudden we started going out to eat dinner with my guys and their wives. And we said, all right, let's meet wherever you want to go eat dinner. Let's go eat and let's just talk. And so, and what's important to you? And we revamped a few things, not only from pay, but responsibilities and those type of things. And it made a huge difference. And so we even started doing now, when you have a birthday, man, we close down for lunch and we put the word out there, hey, I'm paying for lunch and everybody come out, we're going to eat lunch. So we're just trying to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. That's how important our guys are to us. So trying to add that to it.
It was a good story. I enjoyed hearing that from you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you do forget because you get so busy and
you're going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. And you don't mean to. And then all of a sudden, you get a hit like that. So when you first started the company, what was that aha moment you had that's like, okay, this is going to work?
Man, it was many years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have a weird business in that most, like let's say they got asbestos. I removed the asbestos. They don't have it anymore. Yes. It's like, I got another customer, if they have mold, I get it out of there and they're like, I hope I never have mold again. So, for many years, like a lot of business owners, I'd wake up in the middle of the night in sweats, like, where's the next job coming from? Who's that next customer? You look out and the calendar's only booked out, a week or two. And that's typical in this business. People don't say, I'm going to have a mold event next year. The fourth quarter, I want to have this big mold and water event. It just doesn't happen. So it's a lot of emergencies, but I'm literally, I know this sounds crazy, but it might have been 10 years into it that you start realizing, and it's probably my accountant looking at it and just seeing the stress in my life saying, you know what, Bryan, look at this year after year, the same things happen. You have lulls, you have peaks, but it just keeps coming. Just keep doing what you're doing. And so I think it's finally getting that point now where I don't wake up quite as much in those cold sweats anymore. But I'm like, you know what? Let's just keep doing what we're doing, and we'll just keep adding business, and it keeps going.
Is there a reason why one season is busier than the other?
Well, it used to be we got really locked in on these weather events like hurricanes and stuff, and that's where you see these big ups and downs. And then all of a sudden we had a couple of years, you might remember, we didn't have any hurricanes.
Yeah.
Nothing made a U.S. landfall. We're like, we ain't got that to count on. And so we went into a lot of books are called the hedgehog concept. If we're backed into the corner, what is that we can live and die on, and so, or live on, not die on it. We're going to live on it. And so we just really put a concentrated effort there to make sure that was always there. So that's what we did. And that's where a BNI comes in. That's good local business that's steady.
Yeah. And a lot of people that have been on the show so far have talked about surviving the recession in 2008, 2009. How'd you guys approach that?
It was, that had to be about the time I started at BNI. It had to be about that time because I remember we were just like, it was tight. We were hunkering down. And I came to BNI. So, of course, I had some people working there, but I went to my local chamber, the Wake Forest Chamber of Commerce, joined that, started going to business meetings, and someone there said, you got to join a BNI. And I tell you what it helped me do is, as a lot of business owners wear a lot of different hats, at least I knew every Friday morning I was going to think about my business, not be reactive, not put out a fire, not, put an estimate together. But it was like for that hour and a half, I was thinking about what generates revenue. How do I be that? How do I be? That's good English. How can I be that powerful rainmaker? That's what we call it. I'm the rainmaker. So I got to go out and make it rain at this company. So at least every week I was getting around other people like-minded. We're thinking about, how do I make it rain at my company? How do I make it rain? And then once it got consistent thinking like that, it moved.
Yeah.
So that's probably a good point.
And you had mentioned earlier the main motto for BNI is givers gain.
Right.
And this forces you to each week. Yeah. Like I said, you have your meeting coming up. Okay. Who haven't I met with? Who do I need to meet with? What do I need to do? So if you have more questions about BNI, again, whether you live in the Triangle or anywhere else, you can reach out to the BNI office here, 919-465-1667. You can send them an email, trianglebni@yahoo.com. Talk to Steve, talk to Mary, talk to Brenda. All three in the office would be more than happy to help wherever you live. If you have a question, want to start your own chapter somewhere, Steve is very good at doing this. So your company started. Was it just you and your wife? How many people did you have with you?
No.
How many 1099s did you have with you at the time?
That's a whole nother episode, 1099s. We don't have any 1099s anymore.
We can spend an hour on how people, it's a 1099. I don't want to make them full time, but I tell them where to go and what to do every day. It's like, then that's an employee.
Yeah. And the state wants to know about that.
They do.
And they will have an ugly conversation with you. That's enough said. So, and actually we started, so my wife was actually homeschooling. 3 kids we homeschooled from the beginning till, like I said, now we're in college.
Yeah.
So she was not helping me. It was me. She was helping me from being encouraging. Don't get me wrong. Love you, Shug. And in case she's watching.
Yeah.
And anyhow, she is. She's watching. She called earlier. But I started with this guy named Gary, and just Gary and I was just like, I knew this guy, and I said, he could do anything. That's the reality. This guy can do anything. Kind of a jack of all trades. Fortunately, he was coming from the asbestos industry, and I said, you know what? With this, this bullheaded determination, me and this guy, we can get this thing started. And that's what we did. We just got started. And then things just started happening,
Was it just the two of you going on jobs?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, and usually I would leave him about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I would go look at the jobs that would be for the next couple days, put
Okay.
an estimate together, come back, pick him up, head back to the house, and we did this every day, and it was nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. Nuttiest here's a funny story. Nuttiest story. We got this job, an asbestos removal job up in the mountains, and we get up there, and the job was like spec'd at like, I don't know, maybe 600 feet of pipe insulation. So me and this guy, we're gonna go up and do it. And we said we can do it like over 3 days. So me and Gary, we're gonna make this thing happen. Well, we get up there, and they were totally wrong by a factor of 2. There was twice as much there, and it's just he and I. And so we got in this little bitty hotel room up there, and I think we slept from like 1 in the morning to about 4. Got up and hit it again, and we went at it, removed twice as much material. It was nuts. It was maybe hopefully the state's not listening right now. OSHA's like, these guys are crazy. But we did it. We got the job done, you know. So it was just he and I, and we got started. And then as time went on, you know, we picked up another guy and then another guy, you know. Just when you're bootstrapping, you know, maybe bootstrapping is not even the right word. Saying bootstrapping means you put your money into it, but it was just like whatever we had in the bank, you know, it's like that's what we're using this week, you know. So we were worse than bootstrappers, you know, just making it happen.
I would imagine in an attic or a crawl space, you probably have a couple stories of things
Oh
you've
my
seen that
gosh. Crazy stuff, man. Crawl spaces, probably the scaredest I was in the crawl space. Went in, and you always at first you're like going, you know, if you say, well, are you scared of the snakes you see? No, it's the snakes I don't see that scare me. So one time I had an owner, and he was trying to point out this area where the hot water had leaked in the past, and he was pointing it. And so I reached up there and I was like, you mean up here? And when I reached, there was a snake laying on top of the hot water line because
Oh,
it was
yeah.
like early in the spring. And I grabbed that snake and he slithered out. Man, it was crazy. Man, we've seen a lot of stuff. We've had them drop off insulation on us. We've run into raccoons under there, you know, and you get out in a hurry. You can get out in a hurry.
in the pest business, I ran across this bat one day in an old house. It was boarded up, and I needed to go in as one of our commercial accounts, and he's just hanging from the curtain. And this first one I've ever come across. So I go up the first set of steps to the landing, and I see him spraying, looking around, all
Oh,
this
yeah.
stuff, right? And I see him hanging from the curtain, and I'm like, dude, I hope you're either way sound asleep or very dead. And I went up real quick, sprayed what I needed to spray just so I could tell the client, oh, I sprayed up there.
Yeah.
And then I got out of the house and said, I'm not going back again.
I'm done. I'm
And
done.
plus, I mean, there are state laws on how to remove bats. So, but anyways,
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah. But just walking across, I was like, oh. But thankfully, I've not run across a snake in a crawl.
Hitting them with the shovel's not part of that state law. I don't
No,
think,
and I don't
is it?
think what I was
Yeah.
no, and I don't think what I was spraying was going to bother me too much anyway. So like, man, how quick can I get out of that house? But that's the thing, what you don't see till you come across it.
That's
And
it.
under the crawl spaces, and it's, I mean, moisture
Yeah,
finds crawl spaces. And that's what
It
causes
does.
problems and things like that. So.
there we are. That's awesome.
Oh, the stories, yeah.
Yep.
So, who's been with you the longest now?
Man, longest with me now, it's got to be Marcos. Marcos has been with me the longest, man. And he's the guy who came to me a couple of months ago. I'm just
Really?
like, yeah, that
Right.
just so and Marcos was a referral from a good friend of mine who said, this is a guy that you want to hire, he's work hard. And he has. I mean, from day one, man. This guy, I can call him, you know, we get a crazy loss, he's going to be there. He's going
Yeah.
to be there to help. So he's been with me the longest, and it's probably been, it's got to be close to 17 years.
Wow.
17 years, man.
So, how do your kids factor in with being involved in the company one day?
Well, my oldest son, who's now at NC State, he probably worked with me the longest. He probably worked with me for about, I bet, 3 years. He started out in the warehouse working on equipment, man, just, you know, figuring out why does equipment break? How do I fix it? Order parts, make the changes and all that. He would deliver equipment materials to the guys in the field. So this is like when he's 16 years old. And so he's delivering stuff out in the field and all that. And then as he got older, he actually wanted to work with the guys in the field. And so he's working in the field. We're doing a job down in Cameron Village, big apartment, condo complex. And it's hotter than a fistful of jawbreakers. Man, it is hot.
Nice.
And he's in there and he's sweating like crazy. And it's just day after day, man. You're wearing a respirator all day. And
Yeah.
he comes to me one day and he says, Dad, he said, man, this is tough, but would you be hurt if I go look for another job? And I'm thinking, you know, I'm his dad. I'm paying him good money. I'm like, yeah, you go big boy. You go big boy. Man, by the end of the day, he had a job working in air conditioning, making the same money, man. I was crushed. So He left me. My middle son, he worked just a little bit. He worked just a little bit. I think he learned from his older brother. But then my daughter, man, she's the current rock star. She is great with customers. She follows up with customers. She puts proposals together. She maintains our CRM. I've had her go to meetings and people were just blown away with just kind of how she can handle herself and speak. So she's doing a phenomenal job.
Now, as you grew, how difficult was it to wrap your arms around? We got to have a warehouse. We got to have inventory. We got 8 or 10 vehicles, however many you have. How did that come about? And was that one of your strong suits, or did you give that to somebody else?
I think it's because I was just scared. I've just always just kind of ran a little bit scared. So we didn't buy anything until we absolutely had to have it.
Yes.
The warehouse is in the garage, till finally, my wife was like, enough is enough. And then you get a little warehouse space, and then you get a little bigger warehouse space. And then you say, well, like, we got to have another truck. You rent a truck for a while and you're finally like, I got to go buy a truck. So you buy another truck, and then you buy a trailer. And then finally you realize guys can't back trailers real well. So you say, all right, let's buy a box truck. And then you get another box truck and then another. And so it just, but you get it when you got to have it. Some people come up with this great business. And I've looked at guys who've started business the same time I did, and they're 10 times bigger than I am. And I've seen other guys that started business the same time I did, and they're out of business. And both models work. Some guys went in and said, I'm going to get a loan from the bank for a couple of $100,000 and we'll buy all this stuff. And they're gangbusters. Others went bust. But the way it worked for me, for my personality, I was always a little bit scared. So I bought it when I needed it. I bought it when I needed it, but never had bank notes, never had debts, anything like that. So when I do sleep, I sleep well.
My brother is, I explained to everybody that he's in the company business. He's the brains, I'm the muscle.
There you go.
So he has been a serial small business owner since about 1994. And the first thing he starts with is debt. Do not have any. This will crush your company because at some point in time, you can't pay your debt service. You may be bringing in decent money.
That's right.
But you can't pay your debt service. And he's talked to people before. He's got 2 kids and 4 nieces and nephews. And he's talked to them because they're all out of college now. And he's had conversations with them, about small business, things like that. Debt is the worst thing you can have.
Yep.
So you're right. I mean, you can it's real easy to go to, well, not easy to go to the bank, but it's easy to get, I got a $75,000 loan so I can do this and this. I can get up and running. It's great, but you probably don't have your revenue coming in at the start.
Right. It gets tough.
And how do you service that debt? But you're right. That'll just crush people.
Yep.
I know, looking at numbers and that will keep you awake at night.
So,
So what are the plans? Okay, this is early August 2018. What are the plans for the rest of the year and through 2019? Things you're focusing on, growth numbers, percentage-wise, stuff like that you're looking for?
Well, we had such a big growth year last year.
2017?
2017 was such a big growth year. We didn't want to get crazy with our goal this year, but we'd still like to grow another 10% this year. And we're right on track. We're probably behind just a smidge. But because we had a bad first quarter, I say bad, just went all we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Second quarter was great. Third quarter's looking great. So we're looking to make up all that ground and still get at least a 10% growth this year. Internally, we're just looking to fine tune some systems on the operation side. And then I want to finalize. We've made such headway in the last, I'd say 6 months when it comes to sales and marketing. We've made such good headway on that I want to get that piece handed off, so that we can continue to grow the business. So that's what we're just looking to continue the growth and work on systems just to better serve our customers and just know how it runs.
Do you remember about the first year you were full-time BNI, what that percentage jump was?
I'll be honest with you. The first year BNI probably didn't have a huge growth. It wasn't until it really wasn't until it dawned on me that I had to be strategic and specific. Those are the two. Every time I go to my BNI meeting every week, I always think about it. So how am I going to be specific and strategic this week?
Yeah.
That's what I got to think. I think a lot of people. In fact, I think you told me this, Mike. You
sure I did.
You did. It's
sure
going to be really
did.
good. So you definitely told me. And I was coming in as like the chapter president, and you made a comment and you said something. Everybody has to find out how to make BNI work for them. Because I realized how BNI was working for me was different than a lot of other people in there. Because what I've got, most guys in my BNI group will never, ever need my services. So I've got to find out how to get into the people they know.
Yes.
And so I had to be very strategic and very specific. So, I would think just finding out how to make BNI work for you, and some people it's going to be just find that great referral partner, natural referrals and all that kind of stuff. And I've developed some of those now, but I've got to be very strategic and very specific. So the first year I was still learning that. I mean, just being honest with it. I just learning that until I had that talk with Steve Hand.
Yeah,
Steve Hand, I had to say that, Steve
yeah.
Hand.
But that's how good he is.
That's how good he is. Yeah. And he just drilled down on it. And I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Well, if you have a remediation issue in the Triangle or nearabouts, as we say around here, go to remtechenvironmental.com, give them a call. They can come out and help you. And if you have more questions, some interest in BNI or Triangle BNI, please give us a call at the office at 919-465-1667, or go to trianglebni@yahoo.com, shoot a note to Steve or Mary or Brenda. They'll be more than happy to help answer your questions, and at least go visit a chapter. It's worth it if you're or somebody you know has a small business looking to grow it. BNI is a great way to do it, because stories like Bryan here have shown that once you get into a BNI chapter and you activate it, and that's the key.
That's right.
You have to activate that. Then the referrals will start coming once you show that you can give referrals out. And next week we have another good guest, another good success story. Matt Yablanowski, Retain Revenue. He is an independent credit card processor. It's another great story in Triangle BNI. We look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for joining us here on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.